Hey, I am so glad you're back. And if you've been catching us all week, and I guess by all week I mean Tuesday and Wednesday, but if you've been catching us all week, we have been talking about relationships. Now, the last two, we really focused in on really marital relationships, but just couple relationships, and about submission. And today I thought it would be worth talking a bit about parent-child relationships because the kids are kind of trapped in with us as well, or we're trapped in with them, or vice versa, or all of the above. It's affecting everybody. Now, kids are remarkably neat in that they're really well tuned, at least at a younger age, to kind of move from experience to experience, and just their emotional palette just switches really fast. Now it'll be years and years later where some of that gets unpacked, but the things that we're doing now, I mean, are going to become the memories and the stories that they're going to tell of this event later, into the future, maybe well into their adulthood. They'll look back at this period of time and reflect on it and think about it, and that's scary. That's super scary. I mean, I have a handful of kind of key memories from being when I was a kid, and there's a pretty good chance that most of the children who are around now, I mean, one of their key memories is going to be, what did we do as a family during this period of time? So let's just cover the basics really quick. The first basic being, not an expert, not pretending to be an expert. I don't even play one on TV or I guess Facebook in this particular case. I just not an expert. Been a dad for 11 years, for whatever that's worth, but that's only the three of my kids that I'm reasonably good at interacting with most of the time. So not an expert. What I do think though is worth reflecting on is some of what again has been our kind of our guiding focus verse. This passage where Jesus reminds us that everybody who claims to follow him has to love like him. That he gave us a new commandment, that as he loved us, so we will love one another. And that if we do that, the whole world will look at us and see the type of character that we have, the kind of love that we display, the sacrificial love of Jesus being played out in everyday ways. Ways in our home with our spouse, ways at work, ways when we're grocery shopping, just lots of little ways. But it plays out in parenting as well. So that passage that we talked about back on Tuesday that Paul gave us with some advice around husbands and wives, I mean, he goes on and has some advice around parents and children. And it starts exactly the way that you would expect it to. A first century Jewish rabbi who was interested in the church, he begins exactly where you'd expect him to. And he tells children, obey your parents, for this is what's right. And then he quotes the Old Testament, honor your father and mother. Just boom, it's one of the 10 commandments. So kids, get on board, you know? Honor your parents. This is what you have to do. Now, it's worth pointing out, he's actually not only talking about young kids. He absolutely is talking about a kind of a lifelong relationship that parents and children have. But again, this was expected. This was the norm for the culture, that throughout their lives, children honored and respected their parents. When they're children, when they're adults, when the parents are seniors, that this relationship just carried on forever. Honor really just means respect, take care of. That's a pretty good lesson for us even right now in this situation. You know, we can look for the seniors around us, the people who are a little older than us, who need some honoring right now, who need some respecting, who need some taking care of. But back to the point, in your own household. It's this next verse that becomes a little bit more radical. Now, Paul addresses it specifically to fathers. But I am willing to say that it is extended to both parents, to all parents in the family. So fathers, Do not exacerbate your children. Instead, bring them up in training and instruction in the Lord. So think about today, yesterday, last week. Think about moments where it was difficult in your household, where a high emotional moment came in, where your kids acted up or acted out, where punishment had to come down. Now, between you and me, what part of it was your fault? What part of it was your fault? And I'm not here to blame you. I'm not here to shame you, because I'm thinking about the last handful of interactions with my kids when their emotions hit high and then my emotions hit high. And we had some back and forth and there were tears and it was difficult. But what part of that difficult interaction was your fault? Or to borrow Paul's word, where did you exacerbate the situation? Where did you make it harder? Where did you make it worse? Because our goal as parents is to help our kids grow, to help them grow in maturity and wisdom and intelligence, to shape them into wonderful, functioning human beings. And if you are a follower of Jesus, to also get them to be followers of Jesus in their lives as well. I mean, that's all of our goal. That's what we're trying to do. And some of us do it better than others, but we have to make sure we're watching this. See, Paul's point is, yeah, there's a power dynamic difference between parent and child, but that the ethic of servant love, of sacrificial love, that's still there. Because there are times as adults we know that we should be the more mature, that we should be the more level-headed, but when our stress is high and our patience is low, and those little behaviors that we would find endearing, that if you had caught us on a different day, we would have snapped a picture, tossed it up on social media and said, "Isn't my rugrat adorable?" But instead, it just grated on us. And we exacerbated the situation. Don't think of this as a scolding, but eventually, maybe in a month, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years, but eventually, there's a really good chance that your child or children are going to tell a story of what being quarantined with their parents was like. What kind of story do you want them to tell? Listen, I'm a big believer of explaining to your kids when you're having big feelings as well. And if you have a moment where you react when you shouldn't have, to actually apologize for it. I'm a big believer in apologizing when I'm not at my best. But yeah, in the future, it's going to be a story. And they're going to tell a story about what it was like being quarantined with their mom or dad, or bouncing back and forth between their parents in different locations, or whatever your household setup it is. But that will eventually be a story. What story do you want to tell? I know we are so caught up in moving day to day to day to day that we can lose track of the bigger narrative. But Paul is reminding us, don't exacerbate your children. It doesn't lead where you want it. All right, that's it. That's enough of me kind of finger wagging at you. Again, I really hope you don't take it that way. I am rooting for you, and I hope you're rooting for me, and I am praying for you, and I hope you're praying for me. This is not easy, and this was not in any parenting handbook I ever read before my kids were born. There was no chapter on how to parent your kids through quarantine, and we're all just doing our best. Sometimes your best looks like eating chocolate Easter eggs for breakfast and coloring most of the day. And you know what? I am cool with that, because that's not a bad memory 10 years from now. And eventually the dentist will open up and we'll get those teeth looked at. Anyway, thanks for joining us all week. We'll look forward to chatting with you on Sunday. Have a great